YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Guys, today we're talking the big news that just released a few minutes ago. That would be the new rule change from Bassmaster. The crazy thing is I just filmed a video this morning that I was getting ready to post this afternoon about Bassmaster and where they were with forward facing sonar, stuff like that. And they have made a very significant rule change to their forward facing sonar stuff. So let's break it down. Let's break down what they said and what is going on at Bassmaster. Hey, real fast though, if you get a chance, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps me out to know who's watching the show and everything that we have going on here. I've told you guys before, we will be posting a lot more content. Like I said, I already shot one for today, but I'm going to have to push it till tomorrow probably, or maybe the next day. So let's dive right on into this. This is really big news for Bassmaster, seeing that they were the only tournament organization that has not touched the forward-facing sonar stuff. So one of the biggest things that they said is they have now made it to where they're only going to allow Elite Series. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with Opens, per my understanding of reading the press release. And if I missed that, I do apologize. But when I looked at the press release, what I saw was this is for 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series. So their rule is now that they are only allowing Elite Series anglers to use forward-facing sonar in 5 of the 9 events. That's cool, but the even cooler thing is they are going to select the tournaments at random as when they can use them and when they cannot use forward-facing sonar. You know, last year, the only way that they addressed it is they allowed anglers to only have one forward-facing sonar transducer, and I think up to like 55 inches of screen size in their boat. So I think that's still going to be in effect. But per the press release as well, is that is going to be administered randomly. And what that does is it doesn't allow anglers to kind of have that notion beforehand on how they are going to address a certain body of water, how they're going to catch them. And it really still adds an element of, oh my gosh, I got to still figure out how to catch them prior to that pre-practice. And then when you get on the body of water, they're going to let you know, I'm assuming, or the week before, or the couple days before, or however they're going to communicate it. One thing that it did say was that anglers were not, I'm doing this off of memory, okay, so if I miss something, I apologize. But during official practice, now this isn't pre-practice, but official practice, anglers are not permitted to use forward-facing sonar either. This is the same rule that we have on the NPFL during every event instead of just select events. But every event, you're not allowed to practice with it or use it in the tournament. I'm assuming more stuff is going to come out as far as how they're going to police this, whether it be a lockbox like we have on the NPFL, or it's going to be in some form of, we're going to give, truth verification tests. I like to say it that way because lie detector tests, and I don't really know if it really detects that. I don't know. Anyways, but Bass has definitely thrown the gauntlet down, made some serious changes. The one thing I was talking about in my video that was getting ready to release today was I was kind of grading all the tournament trails and where they were at and what was going on. And I'll give you a little spoiler. I talked about the Bassmaster Elite Series, and I actually still gave it a decent grade in comparison to others. I still gave it a B-. I think either a B or B-, C+, around in that range. And the thing that was significant about it is I did say that there was a couple tournaments that were won without forward-facing sonar. But the one thing that wasn't reflected on that research study that was done about who won with or without forward-facing sonar was how many checks were cashed with forward-facing sonar at each and every single event. It's definitely been the prominent news story in the bass fishing world. The tournament fishing world is forward-facing sonar. And it really has changed the way that these tournaments, the outcome of these tournaments. I mean, I'll put it to you like this. I think Major League Fishing has really exposed what forward-facing sonar, the benefits, and the people who are really dependent on it in comparison to the guys that really don't depend on it that much. For instance, Jacob Wheeler, I know he won an event this year without ever even turning it on. Whereas there was events where I know other anglers that would win or be in the top 5, they caught almost every single pound or ounce of their weight in the one period of using forward facing sonar, and then the rest of the periods they were just trying to survive with the lead or stay in the top 5 at their particular tournament. So what it's done is exposed how great and how powerful forward facing sonar is. Myself, I've seen the light with it quite a few times now. I definitely think it is way more powerful than we ever thought possible. And I'm not making fun of the young guys or anything. They are the best with it because that's what they know. That's what they've grown up with. And so, of course, they don't want to get rid of it. I was privy to a few of the, back channel conversations that happened on that particular decision with Bassmaster. I know some votes were made, and there was a bunch of discussions along with anglers and officials. But the one difference is I just don't think that Bass quite has enough of that young generation on their tournament trail right now to be able to overturn this. But I will say, had this been voted on after the open anglers that are going to qualify this year will qualify into the Bassmaster Elite Series, I think that majority might have shifted a little bit, because the more the young guys get in the Elite Series, the less likely they are to vote against forward-facing sonar. So it's definitely an interesting time in the fishing industry. Everybody's starting to crack down on this a little bit. NPFL, they banned it. MLF, they have their certain set of rules, whether it be for invitationals or the Bass Pro Tour. But I've also heard that the Toyotas and BFLs might get touched, may not get touched. I honestly don't know. That one is 100% a rumor that I've heard, but you never know. I mean, everybody's looking at it through a microscope right now, figuring out what is best for their viewers and what is best for their anglers. So it's definitely opened a bunch of eyes. I know this last event that the Elite Series had at the Mississippi River was a lot more fun to watch. I did watch quite a bit more of the content just for the simple fact that there was such an insanely tight Angler of the Year race, but also because they're frogging and flipping, and quite honestly, to me, that's more fun to watch. But don't get me wrong, I learn from everybody that gets on there, especially if they will talk about what they are doing and how they are doing it. And I really do believe that as a fan of the sport, and I definitely am a fan of the sport, I can learn from anybody and everybody that gets on live, that gets on a tournament, and is fishing at that level, because you have to pay attention to all the little minute details they have. But now, what this is going to do is it's going to allow more tournaments to be won without forward-facing sonar. Now, I am curious as to how they're going to balance that out, how they are going to pick the lakes. They said it's at random, but is it at random for the anglers, or random as in they're going to throw everything into a hat and randomly draw out yes or no? And that is the big question. Which ones are they going to go with? How are they going to pick it? Is it going to be like a button that they press that is like a randomizer on the internet, and these are your 5 tournaments? I'm not quite sure, but I would, if I had to bet anything, I'd be willing to bet that they pick the 5 based off of fisheries and how the fishery lines up. I really would not be shocked as if a river or 2 was a forward-facing sonar tournament, just to add that extra element, whereas a bigger lake like a Guntersville or wherever they're going, I don't even know what their schedule is, but let's just say, for instance, a Guntersville, they're going to make that a non-forward-facing sonar tournament because the fishing is so great on a body of water like that. So it will be interesting. I think the anglers will actually benefit from this. Even the anglers that everybody tries to say that all they do is forward-facing sonar, I really do believe this will help sculpt some of these anglers, force them to go fishing, and I think it will make the organization, the tournament trail, the fishermen better because of it. I really think it's bringing it back a little bit and really limiting something that probably needed to be limited at this point. I mean, it's definitely glaring. the results and how it's done and how the fishing has been. You're talking insanely heavy weights at some of these places that traditionally didn't always throw out those heavier weights, but it really exposed how good some of these fisheries actually are and how big some of these fish are. So what do y'all think about the rule? I know I have my thoughts. I'm kind of on the fence there because I like the fact that they are at least limiting it, or at least putting it into a spectrum of, okay, we're not going to just use it all the time, but we're not just going to get completely rid of it. I kind of like that aspect of it personally. But the problem is, I personally, and I don't fish MLF, I haven't fished MLF since 2019. I really like their approach where it's a day off, day on, day off, blah, blah, blah. You get it. Or even on the BPT, it's a period on, 2 periods off, and you kind of get to pick your period. I think that's super cool. I don't think the period aspect is going to actually fly on the elites because obviously it's a random, regular day of fishing, 8 hours. You're trying to catch your 5 biggest fish. But I definitely think there is certain ways that you can mix them in and really showcase the angler at every single event instead of just specific events. Are these Forward Facing Sonar tournaments that they have, those 5, are all the young guys going to, just absolutely blast them? And then at the other 4, the young, the older generation that has grown up just fishing and hardcore fishing, are they going to dominate those? I think it's, a little bit too early to tell, but you just never know how this is going to shake up, how Bassmaster is going to select these. I think it's pretty cool. I'm glad they finally addressed it. I've always believed that in every sport, I don't care what sport it is, there has to be some type of limitation onto whatever you do, whether it be aluminum bats in pro baseball, certain clubs or certain balls in golf, certain 3-point range on NBA. So it's just I think it's kind of a natural progression on everything. I think there is certain times where you realize, okay, maybe in the hands of a Trey McKinney or a Drew Gill, or I could go down the list. There's a bunch of really good ones with Forward Facing Sonar. Is it too deadly? And for anybody out there, the old school angler, don't get me wrong. I know that in his day, like a Denny Brower with a jig was deadly, but it's not the same. You put a minnow in Forward Facing Sonar or a Nico rig with Drew Gill, they're going to beat you day in, day out. That's just facts. If they're able to use Forward Facing Sonar, they're going to have really good events. And that's been proven. It's just what it is. So really curious, really excited now to watch the Elite Series. I actually really believe, I think they are going to see even more of an uptick on viewership on the non-Forward Facing Sonar days, or tournaments, I would say. I think they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is kind of crazy how good this has actually gone now. So big changes, big news at Bassmaster. I definitely think it's warranted. Very curious now as to what they are going to do with the Bassmaster Opens. Are they going to revert back to last year's tournament trails, like formation or format where they had 8 or 9 tournaments, all points combined, and that created the Elite Series qualifiers? Or are they going to stick with this 2-division EQ series that really reduced their field sizes significantly moving forward? So are they going to implement a similar rule change on Forward Facing Sonar for the Opens? Because that is something that they have done over the last couple of years, is they've mimicked a lot of the same rules for the Opens so that those anglers are prepared when they get to the Elite Series. So a bunch of stuff needs to still come out, a bunch of changes already. Exciting times in the fishing industry. I really do believe this is a great positive change, and I think it will be very, very well received. Congratulations, Bassmaster. I think you did a very good job as far as getting something on paper, anything on paper. So congrats. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.